Welcome back. In this video, we'll go over how to create your own image using shapes. You can then cut, draw, foil, emboss, deboss, engrave, or use the image in another project. We'll create this church as an example. I've added the church at the bottom as a reference. Let's get started. Open Cricut Design Space. Go over to the Canvas tab at the top. Open Shapes, select the square. Click and drag it down so you have more room to work with. At the top, unlock the size so that you can adjust it any way you want. To make it easier, I'm changing the width to 6 inches and dragging the top to where I want it to be. Keep adjusting till you're happy with the way it looks. Click on Shapes and select the triangle. Unlock the triangle and change the width to 6 inches to match the rectangle. Click and drag the triangle over to the top of the rectangle. Select both shapes and go to Align at the top. Align these shapes horizontally so that they're centered. Now you want to unite these two shapes so that they are one object instead of two. On the right, you'll see that there is a triangle and a square. To unite them, select both shapes and go to Combine. At the bottom right, select Unite. You'll notice that these two images are now united into one shape, but remain separate in the Layers tab. Another way to unite these two images is to use the Weld option. Select both shapes and click Combine at the bottom. Now weld. You'll notice that these two images are now welded together and cannot act independently from one another. I always choose the Unite option because I may want to go back later and make changes to a shape. Now click on your shape and drag it down so that you have more room to work with. Right-click and duplicate this image. Shrink it down to start creating the top half of your building. Position it where you want it to go. Keep adjusting until you're happy with the shape and size. Now select both shapes and align at the top, center horizontally. Now select both shapes and combine. At the bottom, select Unite. Go to Shapes and select the pennant. This shape will be used for the door and windows. With the pennant selected, go to the top and flip the image vertically. Now drag it to where you want the door to go. Select all, and align, center horizontally. On the right in the Layers tab, you'll notice all the shapes included in your design. If this looks too busy for you, you can select the arrows and minimize each open space. There are two ways to cut out a shape from another shape. You can either slice, or you can subtract. To slice, you select both shapes, making sure that the shape you want is on the top. Go to the bottom and select Slice. With this method, you have two shapes that work independent from one another. You'll be locked in on the shape and size you chose. I prefer using the Subtract method. It leaves more room for you to make changes later. To subtract, you select both shapes, go to Combine, and then select Subtract. Now on the right, you'll still see all of the shapes you have in your design. Each move independent from one another, or as a whole. You can now change the shape of the pennant, instead of being locked in on the shape and size. Now to add the windows, go to Shapes, select Pennant. Select Flip at the top, and flip vertically. Change the size to make it the size you want. Drag it over to where you want the window to be. Right-click and duplicate. Drag the shape in place. Now select both pennants from the Layers panel. Go to the top, click Align, and align top. This will ensure that the windows are even and level. Now select all shapes, go to Combine, and select Subtract. This will subtract the windows from your building. As I've said before, because we use Subtract, all shapes work independently of one another, so that you can adjust as you go. So if you select the door, you can adjust the size to be taller. Click off the image to see it take shape. Now let's change the size of the windows. Select both pennants on the right. Click and drag the windows how you want them. Click off the image to see how it looks. Now it's time to create the window up top. Go to Shapes, select Pennant, flip the image vertically, and drag it to where you want the window to be. Keep making adjustments until you're happy with the design. Select both shapes and align horizontally to make sure the window is in the middle. Go to the right, click Combine, and subtract the shape. Now let's create the roof. Go to Shapes and select Square. Adjust the image so that it becomes a long rectangle. When you hover over the image, you'll see the arrows pop up. You can tilt the shape so that it sits where you need it to. Right-click on the rectangle and duplicate it. Flip horizontally. Drag it into position. Select both shapes, click Align, and align the top. Click on both rectangles and duplicate. Arrange the rectangles so that they create a roof. Just click and drag to put in place. At the bottom, you can zoom in to see it more clearly. With the Cricut Access Plan, you can use the Warp tool. To do this, select both rectangles at the bottom, go to the top and select Warp. Choose option 2. Click the rectangles and move them in place. Do the same with the top rectangles. Select them and use the Warp tool again. Move them in place. Select the window and adjust it so that the roof isn't in the way. Keep adjusting until you're happy with how it looks. Now select the whole design. Select, Combine, and Unite. Select the design and bring it down so that you have more room on top. To create the cross on top, select Shapes, Rectangle, and adjust so that you have a thin rectangle. Select both shapes, go to the top and align horizontally. Select Shapes again and choose Rectangle. Adjust it so that it makes a cross. Select the shapes and align horizontally. Be sure to save your project so that you don't lose any progress. Select all shapes, click Combine, and Unite. There you have it, a new design you created just using the shapes in Cricut. Because we use the subtract instead of weld, you can adjust any part of the design you need to in the future. Click the next video for more tips and tricks. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this with someone who's on their Cricut journey. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you want to see next.